going on? I appreciate y'all for tuning in to this video. Clearly, this is a day I got off late from work again. So, trust me, these aren't premeditated or planned. It just kind of happened that way. In this video, we're going to talk about something that's been trending on the news. And uh, I don't know. I actually wrote, like, hey, I like to, hey, even though I'm just getting in late from work, I tried to be prepared. So, I actually took some notes down of things that are pertinent that we need to cover with regard to this homicide that has occurred. And is it an accident? Is it involuntary, voluntary? Is it a straight up murder? It could be a few things. We don't know. We're going to talk about it. As always, here we talk attorney reactions. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody in the chat already. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Oh, let me check real quick. All right, wanted to make sure my audio was good. But a round of applause to everybody. Harley D, I appreciate you. Maddie, thank you. I appreciate you as well. So let me give y'all a round of applause since y'all early on the side of the game. Okay, let's dive in. Now, I did see that the 911 call was released, but I'll tell you, everywhere where I found the 911 call, the audio quality was pretty terrible. So let's go ahead, dive in it. We're going to talk about the facts. We're going to cover a couple of statutes so we know what's going on. And then we're going to ask ourselves, was this properly charged or not? And, what is the possibility that charges can be upgraded, that a superseding indictment will be uh, forthcoming? What's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. Nah, I didn't. Did I swag? Nah, hey, just here trying to get this stuff out. So we're going to talk about Telvin Osborne, who was fatally wounded by his girlfriend Hanna Cobb. Now, before we come in, as soon as you see the thumbnail, hey, it's 2025, but there's when anytime there's a brother and a white woman of the opposite persuasion, there's always a racial dynamic. It's just inevitable. This is the society we live in. I know that race shouldn't be an issue, but ultimately it is. And in addition to that, the power of social media as an influence, even though it shouldn't be a paramount to an investigation and potential litigation, it's always something. Hey, that's what a lot of people have been saying. That's what a lot of people have been saying. But it is something that comes up and is an issue. So, just for a little bit of background, Hanna Cobb and Telvin Osborne, they had the most strengthening bond that you can have. You have kids together. They have two children together. They live together. And on Sunday, February 23rd, in the early hours, 5:40 some odd in the morning, 25-year-old defendant, who we're going to refer to Hanna Cobb as a defendant because she is a defendant, because she has been charged and arrested. The defendant shot and killed Telvin Osborne in the bedroom of their home. Now, there's a few things that we got to talk, okay? Burke County Sheriff Williams says that the shooting happened after a night of drinking and an argument that turned physical. Now, there was very limited information related to, I don't know what they mean by an argument that turns physical. Like, was somebody pushed? Was somebody punched? Some would say an argument is physical if I pick up a plate and throw it across the room, not nowhere near you, but just out of frustration. So I didn't see a lot of details out there as to the physical nature of the argument that developed. But I want to pull up my notes real quick, and I'm just gonna pull it up. Y'all don't need to see all the notes I type, but I'm gonna pull it up so I can stay on topic. Okay, now this is Cobb's story. Y'all let me know if it's legit or if it's BS. Cobb says she was checking her firearm, something that the couple did together every night. Something that the couple did every night. The firearm went off, striking Cobb in the chest. Striking Osborne in the chest. Cobb advised that she thought the handgun was safe while she was manipulating the firearm. Now, Burke County Sheriff Williams said his office never received any information to support that. No point during the investigation there was any information about the person cleaning a firearm. Now, I'm not gonna put this on camera because YouTube is gonna block it, but I'll just pull out my holster, okay? See my holster here? I'm a firearm guy, okay? Like my firearm is like this tie. It's like putting on deodorant in the morning. That's just whenever I can have it, I'm gonna have it on me. If any of you out there are familiar with firearms, cleaning the firearm is a couple, maybe a thing that people do. I don't know. Maybe if hey, y'all two Second Amendment loving people, that's fine. Even if I'm willing to buy that you clean your firearm every night, me personally, I'm just gonna call cap. I can't see you coming in from a night of dancing and drinking at 5 in the morning, get into an argument that purportedly turned physical, and you're like, you know what? You get on my nerves, but let's go clean this firearm together. That just doesn't make any sense to me personally. Okay, now initially she was not arrested. After a few days, she was arrested after a public uproar. And if you go on TikTok, I didn't want to pull it up because YouTube is funky sometimes. But Mr. Osborne's family members, his cousins, his friend, everybody were flooding social media and essentially saying that, hey, something is wrong here. This story sounds like BS. There should be some charges. She was not arrested on the spot. Cobb is only being charged with involuntary manslaughter. Now, here we have to understand what involuntary, voluntary, and murder is and how it's defined in Georgia. Georgia is interesting because Georgia only has one murder statute. That's it, just one. It's only one. It's not a first, second. Some states have a third degree. It's just one. They have one murder statute, then they have voluntary manslaughter and involuntary manslaughter. Cobb is being charged eventually after public uproar, in my opinion. She was charged with involuntary manslaughter that carries a 10-year maximum sentence. Now, essentially, Georgia defines involuntary manslaughter is essentially culpable negligence. This means that you are doing something with extreme negligence in a manner just so egregiously negligent that an underlying crime occurred. So, what was the negligent part? She's intoxicated and operating and manipulating a firearm. What was the crime that occurred? An actual homicide. Okay, so question number one: do we think, or could there be a superseding indictment with additional charges? And I don't know. It depends on a few things. What did the prosecution consider when charging involuntary manslaughter? Well, we just talked about it. Alcohol, that's one factor. The reckless, the reckless behavior in using the firearm under the influence or manipulating the firearm, and the death of another. Now, this could be upgraded to voluntary manslaughter, but we would actually need more information. Okay, the statement that Miss Cobb put out, this is her exact statement. I wrote this down. We did this every night with regard to cleaning the firearms. We did this every night. I don't know. I call cap on that. Every night, y'all clean the firearm. Again, I'm a firearm person. I don't clean my firearm every night. And I got a lot of firearms, okay? I got a lot of firearms. I don't clean any of them every night. That's just kind of what it is. But her statement was that we did this every night with regard to the cleaning of the firearm. Now, these are some of the things that the investigation has to show. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I think this is going to be, unless they have Barney Fife and like, I don't know, Scooby Doo and the Mystery Mobile trying to solve this crime. The evidence should be easy to get enough facts to determine if this should be upgraded to voluntary manslaughter or actual murder. That's just me. I think it's easy. Some of the things they're going to look at is the location of the gun, where her hands were at the time that the shooting occurred, the location of the gun, and the distance to the individual. They're going to have to examine the body to see if there's any type of stippling on the body or on the clothes. Essentially, that's just burn. If I take a firearm and I push it out and I'm at point blank range like this, when it hits you, you're going to have a burn pattern on your clothing, on your body. They're going to be able to look at all of that. They're going to look at the skin, the clothing. More importantly, if you were cleaning your gun, one thing that they're going to look at is paramount is they're going to look at, were there cleaning supplies? Where were those cleaning supplies located? Because I think that's the smartest thing to start with. If it were me, I were unilaterally doing this investigation, I'm immediately going to look at, okay, you were cleaning the firearm. Where are the cleaning supplies? Because that's not the most important thing, but it is pertinent because it's relatively obvious. If you shoot somebody, then you go get the cleaning supplies and put them out afterwards. Once you shoot somebody, you all probably never shot a person before. Lucky you all. But there's going to be a blood splatter pattern that's going to cover everything, whether you see it or not. If the cleaning supplies are out in close proximity to where this crime occurred, there'll be a splatter pattern located on those cleaning supplies. If there are no cleaning supplies there, or the cleaning supplies are there, and there's one, no blood splatter on them, we can obviously ascertain that those cleaning supplies came out after the splatter event occurred. Or if there's a splatter pattern inconsistent with what the evidence shows from the shooting of the firearm, we know this is some janky stuff and some shady stuff that's going on. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, LAPD. Yeah, that is true. It is some cops out here who are terrible who can't do their job. Okay, now one thing that's going to be important and beneficial to the defendant, beneficial to Cobb, even though I don't know how helpful it's going to be in the long run, is that according to the facts, Cobb tried to render first aid. Now, this is important because what happens after an event occurs is just as important as what happens during and before an event's occur. Because when you're looking at after event, you're looking at the state of mind of an individual, and you want to see behavior that would be consistent. This is what her attorney is going to want. We want behavior consistent with an accident. If it's an accident, what am I going to do? I'm going to call. I'm going to be panicked. I'm going to be trying to render aid or now render aid, apply pressure to the wound, get instructions from 911. I'll probably try to play the call because it's very short to see if you all can hear it. I'll put the subtitles on, but that behavior is different from you shoot somebody, you run, you try to move the body, someone texts them and you reply back as if you're them on the phone. All that shit is given goofy. So it is a benefit to her that she purportedly tried to render first aid. Now, the sheriff did say something that was important, and this confuses me as to why she wasn't arrested. I would have arrested her immediately as soon as she told me her excuse. I'm just gonna be honest. I get it, but no, I'm locking you the hell up. If you say it was an accident, I was cleaning my gun after we came out from partying at the club drinking. Lock her ass up, and we'll figure it out on the back end. But the Sheriff Williams says that there's no facts to support that Cobb was cleaning a weapon. That's actually important. Now, one of the things that we have to look at is what was said to 911. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull this up, see if we can. Is the audio is low? I tried to find the loudest one that I could. You know what? I know a way that I could make it louder. Give me 1 second. Let's let's go through the rest of these notes. Then I'll pull the audio up because I think I know a way where I could. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Let me see. Nah, that shit is trash. All right, I think we got the subtitles here. It's let's see how long this call is. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and link this and drop it in the chat for y'all. That's the easiest way. We won't be able to get it, and it's at the 207 mark. Let's copy this. Let's copy. Let's go to the chat. It starts at the 218 mark. I'll drop that. And shout out to the Sean Davy Way show. He had the best audio. When you're listening to the audio of the 911 call, literally the first 4 minutes are the most important. But I would put the subtitles on so you can actually read what's being said because it's very difficult to hear. Now let's go ahead and jump back in this. Okay. So delay in Cobb's arrest. Now we know exactly a few things are going to happen here. First, there was no prior domestic violence history. Why is that important? If there was prior history, let's say, for example, hypothetical, that the defendant Cobb maybe had a restraining order against her or a prior call for 911 or something to that effect, then you would have the argument that maybe this isn't a one off thing, it isn't a mistake. There's a pattern or consistent pattern of some type of violence. This is just a hypothetical. But when there's no DV history, you really have to just lean into the facts as you have them. And I think when there's no DV history, hey, stop, move. When there's no DV history that works out, the benefit of the doubt is generally going to be given to the person who's still alive to tell their side of the story. Stop it, dog. I'm silly ass dog. Okay. All right. So there was a delay in Cobb's arrest. This was something that just essentially made public outrage. And let's just be honest, rightfully so. Okay. Let's just think about this. Okay. Let's rewind back. And I'm not saying there's a race thing, but hey, it's 2025. If you can't admit that certain circumstances with certain people involved receive different treatment, you just probably not living in reality. Okay. So let's just rewind back and talk about something that I covered on this channel before. We had a actor who was a relatively buff black guy who was dating a white woman, and he ran away full speed down the streets of New York away from her. I've actually never seen that as an attorney. I represent a lot of people in DV court, and he hauled ass away from her. And I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of smart. And you know what happened to his ass? Conviction. They still convicted him. I thought it was a crazy conviction when we look at things in hindsight, but hey, it kind of is what it is. So there was a lot of public outrage because hey, you had one side of the spectrum saying, "Oh man, it was an accident. Let's give this girl the benefit of the doubt." And then there was the other side saying, "Oh hell no! Nah. If anybody else who was of any other hue gave that dumbass response, they would be locked up immediately." A few days went by before an arrest was actually made. I'm going to be honest. I actually think the public perception and the social media outburst actually facilitated the cops getting off of their ass to actually make this arrest, in my opinion. Let's see. Yeah, that's a terrible. And I did see that it stated that her father was in law enforcement. Um, yeah, that's crazy. If that was the best defense that was given, that's actually I don't know. I think that's actually a terrible defense. Now, this is going to be interesting with public perception and cases in Georgia are the only cases in state court that I actually might consider covering because I think the social media push actually caused the cops to get off their ass and make an arrest. And I thought an arrest should have been made immediately. That's just me. It is what it. If you give me a dumbass excuse, I'm locking you the fuck up. I don't care. Plaid, white, black, green, orange. Dumbass excuse that don't make no sense. Lock them the fuck up until we figure out what's going on. There's that excuse. As soon as I heard that, let's at least charge involuntary manslaughter because what you're telling us is cap. It's giving cappy. Okay. The second thing though that's going to be important is Georgia does allow cameras in the courtroom, just like we saw the Young Thug YSL trial. So this is actually a very good case because we can actually see how this case is going to play out if it goes to trial. Now, racial dynamics. Okay. Were racial dynamics at play when it comes to the delay in the arrest and the subsequent social media buzz? I'm going to say yes, because we just live in the real world. There was no witnesses. A lot of times, you got to think about it. Law enforcement are elected officials. There could be a lot of things that sway the perception of how elected officials are going to move. Who is the resident of the jurisdiction where the sheriff, the judges are in play? If one party is a resident, the other party was just visiting, uh, it's going to have an impact on how law enforcement could potentially look at it, even though it absolutely fucking shouldn't. I know y'all gonna be like, yo, but that shouldn't have an impact. It actually should not have an impact, but these are the things that are real world issues. Lady Justice is blind, but that's just a statute. That's not really that's not really how the justice system works. Um, Race can influence the DA, the cops, the jury pool. It should be based on the facts, but public perception and pressure can impact many aspects of an investigation or litigation. Again, initially it was an accident. Now it's involuntary manslaughter. And the question is, should it have been voluntary manslaughter? So we got to look at the two. Or should it have been straight up murder? Let's cover these three statutes. And I want you all to let me know, where do you think it should fall? I got two of the three pulled up. Let me get let's see. Let's see. Georgia code. This is the one I didn't have up. Okay, so let's start with the one that I think would probably be the most difficult. Now, remember in Georgia, there's only three things generally that we could charge here. They don't have a first and second degree, they just have a murder statute. A person commits the offense of murder when he unlawfully, with malice aforethought, either express or imply, caused the death of another human being. Express malice is that deliberate intention unlawful to take the life of another human being, which is manifested by external circumstances capable of proof. Malice shall be implied where no considerable provocation appears, and where all the circumstances of the killing shows an abandonment of malignant heart. A person commits the offense of murder when the commission. Oh, that's felony murder. That's crazy. They got all their stuff under one statute. So essentially, malice aforethought, it breaks down to premeditation. Did you premeditate? Did you intentionally, deliberately think of, I'm going to do this? And the premeditation doesn't have to be, I thought about it last week and I'm going to do it now. It could be a mere instance of, we had an argument. I'm frustrated. I go into the room, I get a firearm, and I come out and shoot. In that instance, you're going to have premeditation and deliberation because the argument occurred. You gave yourself space, break. You took time to go out and actually get the firearm and bring it back. You had a malice of forethought to actually go get the firearm. It's not an instantaneously thing. You can't say it was the heat of the moment and I just, nah, no, none of that shit is going to fly. So that's option one. Is it a murder charge? Again, unlawful with malice or forethought, either express or implied cause of death. Let's see. Express malice, deliberate intention, unlawful to take the life of another human being, which is manifested by external circumstances capable of proof. Malice is implied where there are no considerable provocation appears, and where the circumstances of the killing show an abandonment of malignant heart. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think with what we have right now, this is just me, with what we have right now, at the day that this crime happened, with the information we have, I don't see how you can charge murder under this statute. Hey, I'm not saying that's a. I'm not saying that's an incorrect statement. Like, hey, if something goes down, like I say in a few other videos, my father used to tell me all the time when I asked him when I needed it back, what time is my curfew? Whenever you get home, just remember if something happened, you fit the description. I knew what he meant by that. He meant like, hey, if something go left, everybody gonna be looking at you. Young black guy, long hair. Yeah, DFD had long hair back in the day. So it's just kind of a true bill. Um, but I'm gonna just be honest. I don't think we can charge murder with this statute as it's written and the facts that we have. Now, after an investigation, we may be able to upgrade. Now, she was charged with involuntary murder. So we know what murder is. I'm gonna say no to that. Let me go back up. The involuntary manslaughter, and I had it. Where did I investigation? Okay, involuntary manslaughter is culpable negligence. This means that what you are doing was extremely negligent and you have committed an underlying crime. Could involuntary manslaughter apply? I think it could. But let's see what our last option is. Voluntary manslaughter. Let's scroll down. And involuntary manslaughter, maximum sentence of 10 years, which he's current charged with. All right. Georgia has one murder statute and two manslaughter statutes. Voluntary manslaughter. Okay. Y'all let me know. No to murder. So is it involuntary or voluntary? A person commits the offense of voluntary manslaughter when he causes the death of another human being under circumstances which would otherwise be murder, and if he acts solely as a result of sudden, violent, and irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation, sufficient to excite such passion in a reasonable person. However, if there should, this is written terribly. However, if there should have been an interval between the provocation and the killing sufficient for the violence of reason and this is ridiculous how it's written. This is ridiculous how this is written. Let me see. Okay. All right. This is ridiculous. All right. I had to actually read this first before I read it. Now, okay, I'm gonna go through this now. Voluntary manslaughter. A person commits this offense of voluntary manslaughter when he causes the death of another human being. That's one. Under circumstances which would otherwise be murder. That's two. I think those two are met. And if he acts solely as the result of a sudden, violent, and irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation, sufficient to excite such passion in a reasonable person. So they're saying it's voluntary manslaughter if they were having an argument. Let's take the cleaning aspect out of it because it sounds like cap to me. It sounds like a lie. But let's take the cleaning aspect out of it. If they were out drinking, they were having an argument. The firearm is on the table. She grabs the firearm. Bang, 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 bang. That's the situation based on how it's written. That third prong. So I think the first two are easily met. Cause the death of another human being under circumstances that would otherwise be murder. Check. We all agree with that. They act solely as a cause the death of another human being. Check. Was it under the circumstances which would otherwise be murder? Check. Those two are met. Okay. Did she act as the result of sudden violence and irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation sufficient to excite such passion in a reasonable person? I'm going to be honest. Let me finish reading the statute. Okay. So those are the three things. Was it a killing of another human being? Were the circumstances as such that it would otherwise be murder? And was it the result of a sudden violence or irresistible passion resulting from some type of provocation? Those are the three things we got. The facts that we have, they were out at 5 in the morning, partying, having a good time. An argument ensued. The argument got physical. Somebody ended up shot in the damn chest and they're deceased. Sheriff Williams stated that there was no evidence and nothing provided at the time that statements were taken in their investigation to lead them to believe that there was any cleaning of a weapon going on. All right. So I'm going to be honest. I think at the time that this happened, with that information we have, I think this is the proper statute to charge under. At least. Now let's finish reading it because it's more, because this statute has a lot. But so far, voluntary killing of another human being. Would it have been a murder otherwise? Yes and yes. Did they act as a result of sudden violence or irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation sufficient to invoke such passion from a reasonable person? They were drunk, alcohol, big goggles on, and they were having an argument that got physical. I think those three are met. But it does say, however, this is an interesting thing. This statute is written terribly. They should have broke it out. However, if there should have been an interval between the provocation and the killing sufficient for the voice of reason and humanity to be heard, of which the jury in all cases shall be the judge, the killing shall be attributed to deliberate revenge and punished as murder. That's a dumbass statute, but let's explain what it's saying. Okay. It's voluntary manslaughter if it's the killing of another human being. We met that. If under normal circumstances, it would otherwise be murder. We met that. Was the act the result of sudden violence or irresistible passion resulting from serious provocation? Alcohol, fight, physical, we met that. Now, this statute says, however, if there's a break in time, an interval between the provocation, the argument that's being had, and the actual killing, if there's a break in time sufficient for the voice of reason and humanity to be heard. This is some country shit. This is written how I would expect the statute to be written in the Bible Belt. If there's a lapse of time where a person had reasonable judgment and the voice of reason could be heard, but the person went forward with the killing anyway, this killing will be deemed intentional and deliberate, and the person should be charged with murder. So at the time that this happened, given that dumbass excuse of cleaning a weapon, given that Sheriff Williams said there was no evidence or anything provided about the cleaning of a weapon or anything to show that the cleaning of a weapon occurred, given that it was a killing of a human being, that it otherwise would have been a murder, and there was a sufficient instance of passion, rage that could cause a reasonable person to act as such, violence, argument, it got physical. I think this is the proper statute that should have been asserted. Now, the question is going to be, if she's saying that the weapon was clean, I think that's cap. So for purpose of voluntary manslaughter, let's just assume involuntary is off the table and they got voluntary manslaughter, which I think is the proper charge that should have been charged here. The question and what they would have to look at is, okay, it's voluntary manslaughter. What was going on with this firearm? Did she actually retrieve the firearm from the room? Was the firearm in close proximity? If they're having an argument, it got physical. And let's just, as a hypothetical, I'm not saying that this brother did this, but let's say they're having an argument, they're drunk, it gets physical, their firearm is sitting on the table, and hypothetically, he pushed her on the couch, and she lands on the couch, falls off, and she's right there at the table. If she grabs the firearm at that point for voluntary manslaughter, the defense is going to argue there wasn't a lapse in time where, what is the word that they use, where the voice of reason or humanity to be heard. They were arguing, they were drunk, he pushed her, hypothetically, she fell on the ground, grabbed the gun off the table, which was in close proximity to the couch and the ground where she was, and started shooting. No lapse of time. Now, different circumstance. He pushed her. She hits the couch, rolls on the floor, gets up, hauls ass in the room, gets her nifty biometric safe with the fingerprint. Gets her nifty biometric safe with the fingerprint, takes the gun out, come back in the other room, then put in get to doing wet work. At that point in time, she's going to be charged with a murder. That's just kind of what it is. Let me go and check out some of these comments. See, don't fit the description. Let's see. Felony murder is someone in the commission of a felony and a death happened within the scope of a felony, robbing a bank, and a security guard has a heart attack. Yep, that's 100% correct. Felony murder is a tough rule. Like, literally, it could be of no avail. It could be someone in the bank on life support, and they just like their granddaughter willed them in, like, let me will grandpa in so he could sign this paperwork. And he come in and he all rickety. People rob the bank. Grandpa actually sleep and has no clue. He can't hear. He's like me. He a field artillery vet. Can't hear a damn thing. Bank robbers run outside. They trying to make their getaway. And grandpa wakes up and just has a heart attack. That person is probably going to be charged with murder because someone died during the commission of a felony, even though the bank robbers weren't the proximate cause of the death that occurred during that felony. So that's 100% right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. This said the Lord. Are we sure about that? Let's see. Voluntary manslaughter should have been charged. I agree. It should have been a charge for voluntary manslaughter. I think that's the appropriate. Me, just if I'm investigating something, prosecuting something, I'm going to charge the maximum charge that I have the evidence at the time of the arrest to prove. And if something lesser occurs, rather than doing a superseding indictment, I would just dismiss the. I would dismiss the. If I charge murder, like, oh, you can always dismiss the voluntary manslaughter if new facts come, and then just do a new indictment for involuntary. That's just kind of my approach. Some prosecutors decide to do the opposite. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Common sense in 2025, not even a regular norm, believe that a woman wants to clean a pop it. Yeah, I just don't like literally. I'm trying to think. No, I don't know. I just find it hard to believe that somebody doing that. And I'm a, hey, I keep the Second Amendment in me. I just find it hard to believe. Now, we do got to talk about how previous social media comments that are made come into play. Now, they shouldn't have any bearing on the facts, but I'm just going to give you all this information to see how the court of public opinion looks at a situation. And it's actually pretty sad, too. Yeah. Why I didn't like crim law so vague and at the same time nuance had the professor confused. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's it's one of those things that's interesting and it could go both ways. Like, for instance, there's some statutes out there that says if it's an enhancing statute where if a felony is committed and a firearm is present, that firearm elevates the sentence you can get for the commission of that felony. But it's inconsistent in different states. Some states, some jurisdictions say if you commit a felony and a firearm is present, you get the enhanced sentence even if the firearm is tucked in my waist and no one knows I have the firearm. I don't even use the firearm to effectuate the actual felony. Because I have it, I get the enhanced sentence. Other states say the firearm has to be present during the commission of the felony to get the enhanced sentence. So it's never black or white. it's never a black or white thing. Now I want to pull this up because I just want to show y'all. Hey, this is some. I don't know. I don't understand. Let's see. It was a you. Okay, Telvin Osborne. Okay, we're looking at Telvin Osborne, and hey, I'm not doing this to crucify the decedent. Hey, I condolences to his family. This was a terrible tragedy, but I'm going to give the facts as the facts are. Now, when you do anything, okay, you could be you could, if a person has a criminal charge for possession of drugs in 1985, right? And then they go their entire life after that bringing over souls to the house of the Lord, right? Doing the Lord's work. If that person passes away, people, the first thing people are gonna say is, you know, he used to sell drugs, right? Like nobody is going to talk about anything positive that you do. With that being said, if you say something on social media that can be construed with scrutiny, it's going to come up and it's going to be brought up. It doesn't implicate the facts, but I just need to show you all how the court of public opinion works. Some people said this is terrible that this happened to Mr. Osborne. Some people said, "Oh man, this is white privilege. If I would have gave a dumbass excuse like that, they'd have thrown the book at me right away," which is probably true. Some people said she got off. No one with a dumb excuse that didn't make sense like that should have went home for 2 days before they were arrested. I think everything worked out, even though I think they were undercharged. They should have been charged with voluntary manslaughter. I have a strange suspicion that a superseding indictment will come for a more serious charge, but that's my personal opinion. But let's take a look at what social media brought up. This was published by Yahoo News on what Mr. Telvin Osborne said with regard to racial dynamics. All right, I don't know if y'all can see this on the screen. All right, Mr. Telvin Osborne. This is him. This is Hanna Cobb. Hey, he was on social media talking about how he loved his girl, which is, I mean, we can all express our love for our partners and significant others online. Telvin Osborne once said he'd rather sleep with a dog than a black woman. Now he's deceased and social media has thoughts. Now, this is just me, okay? I don't really care. I don't wish death on anybody. I would never look at a situation and be like, oh man, this person got what they deserve. Generally, there are a few crimes out there where I'm just kind of like, uh, yeah, justice is justice. So there are a few crimes out there where I'm probably like, hey, eye for an eye, shit happens. But generally, I'm not wishing death on anybody, regardless, especially over something that they said on social media. But the fatal shooting of Telvin Osborne had ignited a storm of reactions across social media, not only due to the circumstances of his death, but also because his past comments disparaging black women. Many online users have expressed mixed feelings, with some showing no sympathy for Osborne, citing his own words as evidence of deep self-seated hate. Now we talk about the death. Telvin Osborne was 30, father from Burke County, Georgia, was shot and killed by his 28-year-old girlfriend, Cobb. She claimed that the shooting was an accident. She started cleaning her firearm after they went out of the club. However, further investigation and mounting public outrage, authorities charged her with involuntary manslaughter. Sheriff Alonzo Williams reported that the shootings followed a night of drinking and heated argument, blah, blah, blah. While the details of their altercation remain under investigation, social media users have focused on different aspects of the case. Osborne documented disdain for black women and his apparent preference for white women. That has no bearing on the facts of this case, but the court of public opinion is something that's going to be influenced. And I'm gonna tell y'all thinking, well, DFD, why are you bringing this up if this has no impact? I'm gonna show you exactly how this has impact. All right, controversial comments resurfaced following news of Osborne's death. Past statements attributed to him began circulating online, sparking heated debates. A resurfaced quote allegedly from Osborne stated, "I'll blank a dog before a black blank. It's got to be a white dog though." And I'm gonna just put the image on the screen so y'all can see it. I'm not gonna read it, but you can clearly see what this image is, and this image is being associated with Mr. Osborne. Okay. Then it says this statement, along with other remarks praising white women while essentially down talking black women, has fueled polarizing responses to his death. Some social media users expressed sadness over his tragic fate, which is the appropriate response, while others pointed out what they saw as irony of his demise at the hands of the very demographic he exalted. The online response has been overwhelmingly critical, with many users condemning Osborne's words and suggesting that his fate was a result of internalized racism. One Twitter user expressed disappointment, revealing a personal connection to Osborne. This one hurt because this is my man's family, but I still got to tell the truth. Old boy Telvin was on some coon ish with his praise for white women. This is just like that Nigerian dude that got poked up by his white girlfriend, uh, blah, blah, blah. Another user explicitly called for black women to withhold sympathy, pointing to his past remarks. Now, why is this sufficient, or why does this have legal bearing? Okay, you try cases and conduct investigations outside of the court of public opinion, or you would hope so, outside of the court of public opinion, because you want it to be objective, impartial, and based on the facts. We've already seen how the court of public opinion did what, in my opinion, was the right thing. I think it was a miscarriage of justice that this happened and she was able to go home for 48 hours. I think that was bullshit. That's just me with the facts that we have. But social outrage actually leaned on the officers, leaned on the police department. They made an arrest, charged her with involuntary manslaughter, which they still did her solid, in my opinion. I still think they gave her some preferential treatment, but it's better than her being out walking amongst the free with the facts we had. Why does his comments come back to kick him in the ass? Now, this is a young guy. I don't know how old he was at the time he made these comments, but if there is a jury trial, these comments are out here, and his comments surrounding the circumstances related to his death were published on Yahoo News. Yahoo News put that out there. His comments, unbeknownst to him, could have potentially screwed over a jury pool if they're looking at this facts. The facts of this case is going to be out there. This case is a state case, state charges that's going to be held in Georgia, and Georgia allows television in their courtroom, so we can see this. And I might actually track this. This may be the first one I track, because this trial might be interesting, because I want to see how she looks when she's cross-examined. And I'm just not impressed by some of the prosecutors I've seen in Georgia as they were doing direct and cross-examination in the YSL case, but that's neither here nor there. But you're going to have a jury pool made up of people from the community, and it could be possible you'll have some sisters on that jury pool who won't be sympathetic to this victim because they're aware of his previous statements he made that shows his disdain at the time. I don't know if he still held it at the time of his death, but shows his disdain purportedly for sisters, for black women in his earlier years or prior to his death. It is quite 100% possible that a stubborn ass person, black woman, could be on that jury and be like, he got exactly what he deserved. Nope, I believe her. I'm saying, I know juries supposed to look at the facts and be impartial, but let's keep it a buck. There's no way you can have an untainted jury pool. These comments, on its face, you think this should have no bearing on anything, but it has probably bearing on the most significant factor on the actual jury that's going to be selected and impaneled if this goes to trial. And I feel confident that this has to go to trial, because I just don't see this. I don't see Hanna Cobb just saying, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take a plea. I'm looking at 10 years for involuntary manslaughter. If you give me 4, I'll go ahead and take it. I don't know if she's going to say that at this point. She might say it if she gets a sweetheart deal, but I'm just going to, if I'm the prosecutor and I'm charging you with involuntary manslaughter and it's 10 years, If I offer you a plea and we're just going with involuntary manslaughter, I may take off 3. You could do 7, but I'm still hold that card because I think this is more in line with a voluntary manslaughter charge. And if I have evidence that shows there was no actual cleaning of the firearm, I'm actually going to charge it as a murder. If I can prove that there was no cleaning going on, that the cleaning supplies that should have been on the table had no blood spatter on them, if I could prove that, that means that those cleaning supplies were placed there after the shooting occurred. I'm going to use that to prove that there was actual intent. Your conduct, remember, we said that your conduct after the event is just as important as your conduct during the event. The fact that she initiated life saving procedures that will weigh in her favor, consistent with an accident. But if I could prove by the facts that the cleaning supplies weren't nowhere near the area at the time of the shooting, that means that you weren't cleaning your gun. Now I got you locked in and not being truthful. And that goes as a strike towards your intent to be deceitful, your intent to cover up an actual murder that occurred. So I would actually upgrade the charge to murder under those circumstances. Let me see. But the police believe that. Hey, I don't know if they believed it. I don't know what role her father had in law enforcement where they were leaned on, but fuck, you got to do the right thing when it's your time to do the right thing. I don't give a damn who leaning on you. That's my take. Yeah. Yeah. Two kinds of people, humble and those who are about to be humbled. I agree completely. I agree. I'm not saying it's a reason. I'm not saying that that's justification for it. I'm not saying that, hey, because of whatever his racial hangups or proclivities may or may not have been, hey, like what you like. But the comments that you made have potentially tainted a jury. I don't know. You think you're going to have a jury in Burke County, Georgia without one black woman on it? No. Now, if you got to, and I'm just going to be honest, this is just me. I don't know if you all know people like this. I personally know black women who will not date a brother to save their life, right? But they have expressly told me if I see a black guy come in a restaurant with a white woman or some woman from another race or nationality, I'm looking at them sideways. And that makes no fucking sense to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even understand the logic. But there are, I say that to say there are people who actually think like that and have that viewpoint. A person like that on a jury for this case would be the worst person. That would be the I would actually rather have a cop from a rural country area who than that type of woman on the jury. So I agree with you 100%, Sandra Parker. That is no reason, there's no justification for his death. People should not use it to say he got what he deserved because I disagree with that vehemently. But those conduct, those statements do have an impact on this proceeding. And if there was foul play, if there was any intent, it's going to have a bearing on how this will play out in trial. Yeah. But I agree. His cousin got online and snapped about comments that were made about him. His cousin snapped on black women. I agree with that position. I don't give a damn what he said. Like, yo, if you wanna, hey, whatever you like. Hey, blonde. I like him brown, yellow, Puerto Rican, and what was that rap song? Y'all remember that rap song? I can't remember what song that was, but hey, you like what you like. It is what it is. It's probably one of the brightest thing or the most intelligent thing to big up your girl and one side and kind of degrade the other one because now those statements are going to come back to haunt you if you have to impanel a jury. Let's see. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know what relationship he had with his parents, but like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, hey, you go where you're appreciated, not where you're tolerated. But who you like, what your proclivities are, what you like as far as appearance, it doesn't warrant anyone having something like this happen to him. But the other thing that his family has to realize is, yo, well, your cousin's comments could potentially impact the type of justice that you may or may not get in this trial. Take that what it is. It is what it is at this point. Those comments are already out there. If Yahoo talking about it, is out there. Yeah. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Race is playing a big part in this situation. I feel bad that he got killed. People can love who they want, but don't put down black women to big up a white woman. I agree. You don't got to put down anybody. If somebody, if you like something, like like hey, if DFD like a certain type of woman, I wouldn't get on here and be like, nah, I don't like short women. Like, nah, hey, one, I don't discriminate, but two, like you don't gotta break down one thing to show props to another thing. So I agree with that comment right there. Ah, come on, get out of here with all that. Let's see. There's always some. Let's see. All right. Why can't I even? Damn, I can't even. But yeah, y'all let me know how that is gonna play out, and y'all let me know if you all want me to track this if and when this goes to trial. I'll kind of keep a tab on it to see how the investigation develops. But I think at the end of the day, one, the cops fucked up. They should have arrested her immediately, and she should have been immediately charged with, at a minimum, voluntary manslaughter. That's number one. Number two, I think there's a strong possibility that there's going to be a superseding indictment and this charge would be upgraded to murder. And the only reason I say that is because Sheriff Williams' statement. Sheriff Williams' statement essentially said at this time, there's nothing to support that the cleaning of a firearm occurred. And I'm gonna just be honest. If you all are out in the club shaking your ass, dancing and drinking, these people were relatively young, 28 and 30. Y'all probably went to the club before. Y'all probably went to the club with friends. You said we did this every night. All I need to do is find one person who can substantiate that you didn't have a pattern of doing this every night. Oh, I went out to the club with Hannah and Telvin, and we had a good old time. And we came to the club. After we came from the club, we just shot the breeze, talked shit, had a couple more drinks, and crashed. She didn't say, "Hey, wait, come on, honey, let's go out. We do our nightly ritual and clean out this firearm." So I think it's a strong possibility that a superseding indictment is going to come into play. Now, bad for the family, bad for the prosecution, but Telvin Osborne's comments related to black women are going to come back to kick him in his ass if a jury is impaneled and this goes to trial. Again, the jury should not consider that at all. Questions should be asked by the attorneys to be able to weed out jurors who would be biased for this particular reason. But one, jurors can be disingenuous, jurors can lie, they can act, they can put on the face. I've never heard of any comments about this. I'm ignorant of this case. People lie all the time to get on the case. But like I said, I know women who will not date a black man, but will look at a black man sideways if he dates any woman outside of a black woman. With that being said, if one of those end up on a jury pool and they're familiar with this case, these comments are going to be the worst thing that could happen to the prosecution's case, in my personal opinion. Yeah. I don't know. I seen uh, how can I put this? I'm that I see where you're going, and I've seen other videos out there that I've seen other videos out there that could how can I put this? I wouldn't say on the crazy side, okay? But there's a term that people like to use. I don't know if young people use it, older people use it too. I'm not gonna say she was on the crazy side, but the phrase that resonates with me is, y'all ever heard the phrase like, "Oh yeah, she with the shits." Like if some crazy shit go down, this person is with the shits. Long story short, that means that hey, this person they might wild out. I'm not saying that she's crazy. I'm not giving her a diagnosis, but like if a fight occurred with one of Miss Cobb's homegirls, I don't think Miss Cobb is going to run away from the fray. That's the kind of person she appears to be, from what I can see on the social media posts and the platform. So, like, I don't see, and that's a why is that important? Why is that demeanor and how she could be perceived on social media is important? Because there is a person who's a personality type who, hey, I don't want to argue. If we're having an argument, I don't want to argue. Okay, whatever. You're right. I don't want to argue. I'm gonna walk away. But there's also a personality type who, if a person is like, I don't want to argue, I'm gonna walk away. And then the other person arguing is following them, like, no, you're gonna hear what I have to say. So I'm just saying, this is why what's put out there on social media is important, because it paints a picture, a narrative of a personality trait that a jury is going to associate with the defendant in the particular case. So, but I definitely agree with your point. Yeah, gonna need to change the venue big time. They gonna they gonna have to change the venue, but like I don't know, like it. it I don't I don't know. I can I could see this case having so much publicity in Georgia where changing a venue wouldn't necessarily be beneficial or advantageous to one party or another. Like, oh man, let's move it to a county that's black as hell. You move it to a county that's black as hell. Well, that may not be favorable for Mr. Osborne just because of his comments that he made about black women. Or if we move it to a rural area, that may not be favorable for the prosecution because they're like, yeah, I clean my gun all the time too. And I'm gonna just be honest, I don't know how, if you clean your firearm every night, that to me, maybe this is just me, okay, intoxicated or not. I don't know how you can clean your firearm and discharge your weapon. It can be done, but if you clean your firearm every night, you establish muscle memory, a pattern. The very first thing that you do when you clean your firearm, drop the magazine, rack the slide to make sure the chamber is clear. That's the very first thing that you do. Once you, I don't know, like I don't know. I just a change of venue. I agree with, but I don't know if there's a venue. Honestly, where it's located may be the best place to hear it. Because if you go to another venue that leans to one side or the other, that might be problematic as well. Yeah, I'm already by. Hey, trust me, I asked a lot of sisters about this case, and believe me, I've seen some sisters that said, "Hey, this is terrible," and some sisters was like, "Hey, you got exactly what you deserved." One comment he said something to the effect of, "I die about this white woman right here. Like, no nobody play. I die about this white woman." And I looked at the comments that people put under there. They was like, "Yep, you got exactly what you said. You spoke it into existence." Like, it's hey, and I'm not saying how you feel. The jury should be objective. People aren't objective. Let's just keep it a buck. Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. Let's see. Drama drama queen may be a better term. That is fair. That's a fair way to put it. Just shout out who you want to shout out. But like, I don't know. If two, that's crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. If I only like women 5'5" and below, I wouldn't be like, hey, look at my 5'5" queen over there. Hey, to hell with y'all 6'3" women. I don't care how fine y'all heifers. Like, that would be crazy of me to do one. And two, hey, fondness comes in all shapes and sizes. But I don't know. So I agree with you all. I see you. This is going to be interesting. I'm gonna keep the track of this so we can come back and see how the investigation develops, and if it actually goes to trial. I don't know if I would follow the entire trial, but I definitely would do a breakdown of the direct examination and the cross examination of Hanna Cobb because that's the only evidence that's going to be presented. Mr. Osborne isn't here. I'm gonna I know a way where I got you. I know I'm about to take you out, buddy. I'm about to close it out. I know a way where I can do the audio and make it louder and clearer, but I have to do some editing of the audio. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably edit the audio and just do a pre-recorded video where we listen to the pertinent parts of the audio and I'll put that out and I'll go through that. I don't know. Should that be live or pre-recorded? I'll figure it out, but I'll go through that audio and I'll talk about this is good for the defendant, this is bad for the defendant. Good for the defendant, bad for the defendant, and then we can weigh in. He wants me to play fetch. Do y'all see what he's doing? Look, he gonna grab his toy, and look, he gonna jump up here. Look, you see that? He's giving me his toy because he wants me to throw it out of my office. That's ridiculous. And now he gonna bring it back and jump up and force me to play with him. He don't gotta go to the bathroom. See? This y'all see what I gotta deal with? He's so spoiled. And I didn't even throw it. It's right here. Come on. Hey, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let me go play with this dog because this dog is ridiculous. This dog is annoying. My daughter calmed me because our pit bull passed away. She was like, I want a small dog. And now she got this dog, and now it's my dog because I do everything. But, hey, that's what fathers are for. Yo, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'll probably I don't know what I'm gonna do with the audio yet. I'm a definitely edit the audio and we're gonna go through the audio. I just don't know if it's gonna be live or pre-recorded. It depends on how long the audio is. If it's shorter than 15 minutes, I'll probably just put out a video breaking it down. If it's longer than 25 minutes, I'll probably do a live stream. Okay, I'm coming. Y'all have a he is so ridiculous. Y'all what a yeah. Yeah, y'all have a good one. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all take care. This dog getting on my nerves. Peace.